The eviction notice trembled in Brianna Hayes' hands as rain hammered against the windows of Pages and Dreams bookstore. 28 days. That's all she had left before losing everything she'd spent 5 years building. The vintage cash register sat silent on the counter. No cheerful dings today, no customers browsing the carefully curated shelves that stretched from floor to ceiling. Just emptiness and the sound of water drumming against glass like a countdown clock. She pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching the gray February afternoon wash color from the Brooklyn street outside. Her reflection stared back at her, a beautiful woman with deep brown skin and exhausted eyes, her natural curls pulled into a messy bun, wearing her favorite green cardigan that had seen better days. At 32 she'd imagined her life would look different. The bookstore was supposed to be her triumph, her declaration that dreams could survive in a world that kept telling her to be practical, get a real job, stop chasing fairy tales. The bell above the door chimed. Brianna quickly folded the eviction notice and shoved it under the counter, forcing a smile as she turned toward the entrance. A man stood there, water dripping from his navy blue coat onto her hardwood floors. He was tall, maybe 6'2", with olive skin that suggested Hispanic heritage, dark hair plastered to his forehead, and the kind of tailored clothes that cost more than her monthly rent. Even soaked, he looked like he'd stepped out of a business magazine. "We're actually closing early today," Brianna said, though it was barely 3 in the afternoon. What was the point of staying open when nobody came? "I'm not here for books," the man said. His voice was deep, controlled, but there was something desperate underneath. "I'm here because I need help, and I think you might need help too." Brianna's hand instinctively moved toward her phone. This was how horror stories started. Strange men with expensive watches and 2 white smiles appearing in empty shops with vague propositions. "I don't know what you think this place is, but—" "My name is Ethan Rodriguez," he interrupted, pulling out his phone and showing her a Forbes article with his picture. "I own TechVista Solutions. I've been watching your bookstore for the past 3 weeks." The words should have been creepier, but something in his tone made them sound almost clinical, observational. Brianna glanced at the phone screen. The article was real. TechVista Solutions had just gone public for $2.3 billion. This man was legitimately, impossibly wealthy. "Why?" she asked. "Because I've seen the eviction notice in your window. Because I've watched you turn lights off in sections to save electricity. Because 3 weeks ago you sat on that window seat right there and cried for 20 minutes after closing." He pointed to the exact spot. "And because I need someone who understands desperation." Brianna's throat tightened. Being seen, truly seen, in her lowest moments felt violating and oddly comforting at the same time. "What do you want?" Ethan took a step closer, and she could see he was younger than the Forbes photo suggested, maybe 35, with lines of stress around his eyes that money clearly couldn't erase. "In 2 weeks my ex-fiancée is getting married. Lauren Montgomery. You might have heard of her family." Everyone had heard of the Montgomerys. Old money, society pages, the kind of wealth that made billionaires look like newcomers. "She's marrying Preston Blackwell III, and she specifically invited me. Front row seat to watch her marry the man she left me for 3 years ago." His jaw clenched. "I can't show up alone. I won't give her that satisfaction." "So hire an escort," Brianna said, crossing her arms. "I don't want someone who does this professionally. I want someone real. Someone who won't try to leverage this into something else. Someone who needs the money enough to say yes but has enough pride to make it believable." He pulled out a checkbook, actually wrote a number and held it up. Brianna's vision blurred. $50,000. Enough to pay her back rent, the eviction fees, restock her inventory, maybe even hire part-time help. Enough to save Pages and Dreams. "That's for saying yes," Ethan continued. "Another $50,000 after the wedding weekend. $100,000 total for approximately 60 hours of your time." The smart thing would be to refuse. To say this was insane, that you couldn't buy a person's companionship, that there had to be strings attached. But Brianna thought about the eviction notice, about the final utility warning, about her landlord's increasingly threatening voicemails. She thought about telling her mother that she'd failed, that the business degree she'd skipped to open this store had been a mistake after all. "What exactly would I have to do?" she asked. Relief washed over Ethan's features. "Attend the wedding weekend with me. There's a rehearsal dinner Friday night, the ceremony Saturday afternoon, and the reception Saturday evening. You'd need to stay at the venue hotel, act like we're together, and basically just exist beside me while I prove I've moved on." "Have you moved on?" The question seemed to catch him off guard. He was quiet for a moment, then said, "I thought I had." But the invitation felt like she was checking, like she wanted to see if I was still broken. I won't give her that. Brianna understood pride. She understood the need to prove you'd survived what tried to destroy you. She looked around her bookstore at the shelves she'd painted herself, the reading nook she'd built from reclaimed wood, the children's section with the constellation ceiling she'd spent 3 days creating. This place was her heart in physical form. I'll do it, she said. But I need half the money now. Today. Done. Ethan didn't hesitate. He pulled out his phone. What's your bank account information? 20 minutes later, Brianna watched her banking app refresh to show a balance that made her knees weak. $25,000. Real money. Saving her life money. She looked up at Ethan, who was watching her with an expression she couldn't quite read. Thank you, he said quietly. You have no idea what this means to me. I think I do, Brianna replied, glancing around her bookstore with new hope blooming in her chest. Ethan handed her a business card. My number. I'll have my assistant contact you tomorrow about the schedule, what you'll need, all the details. And Brianna? He paused at the door. Spend that money. Save this place. You've built something beautiful here. Then he was gone, leaving puddles on her floor and a transaction confirmation on her phone that proved she hadn't imagined the whole surreal encounter. Brianna sank into the window seat where he'd seen her crying 3 weeks ago. This time the tears on her cheeks were different. This time they came with possibility. Have you ever been so desperate that a stranger's offer felt like fate instead of foolishness? What would you have done in Brianna's position? Drop a comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to subscribe to see how this unusual arrangement changes everything for both of them. The coffee shop Ethan had chosen was nothing like Brianna expected. Not some trendy Manhattan spot with $12 lattes and influencers posing by neon signs, but a quiet neighborhood place in Park Slope with mismatched chairs and actual books on the shelves. He was already there when she arrived Tuesday morning, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee and a folder thick with papers. You look different, he said as she sat down. Brianna had actually slept the night before, the first real sleep in months. She'd worn her good jeans and a red blouse, had taken time with her hair, letting her curls fall naturally around her shoulders. I look like someone who isn't about to lose everything. Good. He pushed one of the coffee cups toward her. Light and sweet, based on the sugar packets I saw you pocketing at the bookstore. She should have been embarrassed that he'd noticed, but instead she laughed. Observant. Necessary in my line of work. Ethan opened the folder. I had my lawyer draw up an agreement. Non-disclosure, terms of the arrangement, payment schedule. Nothing sinister, just protecting both of us. Brianna scanned the document. It was straightforward, almost disappointingly so. She would attend 3 events over 1 weekend, maintain the appearance of being in a relationship with Ethan Rodriguez, and receive compensation in 2 installments. There were clauses about confidentiality, appropriate behavior, and mutual respect. The lawyer had even included a section stating that either party could terminate the agreement at any time, though Ethan would still owe the full amount if he canceled. This is fair, she said, surprised. Did you expect something else? Honestly, I've been half convinced this is some elaborate setup for a true crime podcast. Woman agrees to fake date billionaire, is never seen again. Ethan actually smiled, and it transformed his entire face. I promise the most sinister thing I'll do is make you dance to bad wedding music and eat overpriced catering food. Tell me about Lauren, Brianna said, signing the agreement and sliding it back across the table. If I'm going to pretend to be your girlfriend, I should understand who we're dealing with. The smile faded. Ethan stared into his coffee like it held answers. We met in college. Columbia. She was everything I thought I wanted back then, polished, connected, from a world I was trying to break into. I was a scholarship kid from Queens, first-generation American, parents who worked 3 jobs between them to keep food on the table. Lauren made me feel like I belonged somewhere bigger. What happened? I proposed after graduation. Built my first company, sold it for $8 million, thought I'd finally made it. Then her father sat me down and explained that $8 million wasn't real wealth. That the Montgomerys moved in circles where I'd always be the guy from Queens who got lucky. He paused. Lauren ended our engagement 6 weeks later. Started dating Preston 3 months after that. His family has oil money going back 5 generations. Brianna watched emotions play across Ethan's face. Hurt, anger, resignation. And you built another company. And another. And another. Made my first billion at 33. You know what Lauren said when she saw the Forbes article? He looked up, eyes hard. She called to congratulate me. Said she always knew I had potential. Like she hadn't spent our last conversation explaining why I'd never be enough. She's going to regret inviting you, Brianna said with certainty. That's the idea. Ethan pulled out another folder. Now we need to build our story. How we met, how long we've been together, enough details to sound convincing. They spent the next 2 hours constructing a relationship from thin air. Ethan had done his research on Brianna too, knew about her bookstore's 5-year anniversary last month, her degree in English literature from Brooklyn College, her habit of doing dramatic readings at local libraries. They decided on a 4-month relationship, meeting when Ethan came into Pages and Dreams looking for a gift for his sister. What is your sister actually like? Brianna asked. Nicole? Sci-fi romance. The weirder the alien biology, the better. I have a whole section for that. See. Our fake story has real elements. They went through potential questions, family details, inside jokes. Ethan explained that his parents had passed away, that Nicole was his only close family. Brianna talked about her mother in Atlanta, her 2 younger brothers who thought the bookstore was a phase, her grandmother who'd loved reading more than anything. She left me $10,000 when she died, Brianna said quietly. That's what I used to start Pages and Dreams. Everyone said I should invest it, save it, be smart. But Grandma Rose spent her whole life working in other people's houses, cleaning, cooking, making their spaces beautiful while living in a cramped apartment. She told me once that books were the only places she could go where nobody could make her feel small. Ethan was quiet for a moment. She'd be proud of what you built. I hope so. Brianna blinked back tears. That's why I can't lose it. It's not just a business. It's her dream and mine together. You won't lose it, Ethan said firmly. And after this weekend you'll have enough to expand if you want. I'll help. Build that cafe corner you've been planning. How do you know about the cafe corner? There's a sketch taped to your back office wall. I saw it through the door. Brianna shook her head. You're either very observant or very creepy. Both probably. He grinned. It served me well in business. They talked until the coffee shop started filling with the lunch crowd. Brianna learned that Ethan was an early riser who ran 5 miles every morning, that he'd taught himself to code at 14, that his favorite food was his mother's arroz con pollo and he'd never found a restaurant that made it right. He learned that Brianna could quote entire passages from her favorite books, that she organized her store by emotional vibe rather than genre, that she believed stories could save people because they'd saved her. When do I meet your sister? Brianna asked as they stood to leave. Nicole's flying in Wednesday. She's going to love you. Ethan hesitated. Fair warning, she's going to ask if this is real. She's protective. What should I tell her? The truth. Nicole can keep secrets and honestly I could use her help making sure we're believable. He held the door open for Brianna. Besides, you'll need someone in your corner at this wedding besides me. Lauren's crowd can be vicious. Walking back toward the subway, Brianna felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Excitement. This bizarre arrangement was giving her more than money. It was giving her a story, an adventure, a glimpse into a world she'd only read about. And Ethan, despite the strangeness of how they'd met, seemed genuinely kind. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. This is Jordan Park, Mr. Rodriguez's assistant. I'll be coordinating the schedule and arrangements. Are you available Thursday afternoon for wardrobe selection? Brianna typed back, yes. What should I expect? The response came immediately, everything you need and probably some things you didn't know you wanted. Mr. Rodriguez doesn't do anything halfway. That, Brianna was beginning to realize, was absolutely true. The boutique was in Soho, the kind of place without prices on the tags because if you had to ask you couldn't afford it. Brianna stood on the sidewalk Thursday afternoon, staring at the sleek glass doors and the mannequins wearing dresses that probably cost more than her monthly revenue. You must be Brianna. A woman appeared beside her, tall and polished with platinum blonde hair and a smile that seemed genuinely warm. Jordan Park. We spoke over text. This place looks expensive, Brianna said. It is. That's the point. Jordan held the door open. Ethan's instructions were clear. You're to have everything you need for the weekend, no expense spared. The wedding is black tie, the rehearsal dinner is cocktail attire, and there's a Sunday brunch that's technically casual but Montgomery casual, which means designer. Inside, a sales associate named Pierre was already waiting with champagne and a rolling rack of dresses. Brianna felt completely out of her depth. The last formal event she'd attended was her college graduation, wearing a dress from Target and shoes that gave her blisters. I don't know about this, she whispered to Jordan. Here's what I know about Ethan Rodriguez, Jordan said, guiding her toward a plush velvet chair. He's brilliant, demanding, and genuinely decent underneath the CEO exterior. When his company went public, he gave every employee stock options, not just executives. When my mother got sick last year, he personally called the hospital to make sure she had the best doctors. He's asking you to do this because showing up alone would kill him, even if he'd never admit it. You care about him. He gave me a chance when nobody else would. I was a single mom with a gap in my resume and a community college degree. Now I make 6 figures and my daughter goes to a school I couldn't have dreamed of affording. Jordan met her eyes. So yes, I care about him. And I'm protective of people who try to take advantage. I'm not. I know. I had you investigated. Jordan said it so casually that Brianna almost missed it. Background check, social media deep dive, the works. You're exactly who you appear to be. A woman trying to save something she loves. That's why I'm going to help you look so stunning this weekend that Lauren Montgomery chokes on her own regret. Brianna laughed despite herself. Okay then. The next 3 hours were a whirlwind. Pierre brought dress after dress, each more beautiful than the last. Brianna tried on emerald silk that made her skin glow, sapphire satin that hugged her curves, deep burgundy velvet that felt like wearing confidence. For the rehearsal dinner, they chose a knee-length cocktail dress in royal blue with delicate beading across the shoulders. For the wedding, a floor-length gown in rich emerald green that somehow made her look elegant and powerful simultaneously. Shoes, Pierre announced, wheeling out another cart. By the time they finished, Brianna had 3 complete outfits, jewelry that Jordan promised was real but on loan, a clutch bag that cost more than her laptop, and the contact information for a hair and makeup artist who would come to the hotel. How much is all this? Brianna asked as Pierre carefully wrapped everything. Already handled, Jordan said. Part of the arrangement. It feels like too much. It's not. A new voice made them both turn. Ethan stood in the boutique doorway, wearing jeans and a gray sweater that probably cost $1,000 but looked casually comfortable. You're doing me a favor. The least I can do is make sure you have what you need. I've never worn anything like this, Brianna admitted. Good. Neither has anyone Lauren knows. He smiled. Can I steal you for dinner? There's someone I want you to meet. They left Jordan coordinating the delivery details and walked 3 blocks to a small Italian restaurant. Waiting at a corner table was a woman who looked like Ethan with softer features and kind eyes, her dark hair cut in a stylish bob, wearing a bright yellow dress that suited her olive complexion perfectly. Nicole Rodriguez, she said, standing to hug Brianna like they were already friends. I've been dying to meet the woman who agreed to this insane plan. Your brother made a compelling offer, Brianna said. He does that. Makes offers people can't refuse, then acts surprised when they say yes. Nicole shot Ethan a look. Though usually it's about business deals, not fake dating to weddings. They ordered food and Nicole immediately started asking questions. Not interrogating, just genuinely curious. She wanted to know about the bookstore, about Brianna's favorite authors, about what made her say yes to Ethan's proposal. In return, she shared stories about growing up with Ethan, about their parents' work ethic, about watching her brother build empires while forgetting to build a life. He works too much, Nicole said, stealing a piece of bread from Ethan's plate. After Lauren, he threw himself into business like it was the only thing that mattered. I keep telling him money isn't everything, but he doesn't listen. Money matters when you don't have it, Brianna countered. I spent 6 months choosing between paying rent or restocking inventory. Your brother's offer literally saved my dream. See? Ethan gestured at Brianna. She gets it. I get it too, Nicole said. I also get that you're going to be walking into a nest of vipers this weekend. Lauren's friends are the worst kind of wealthy people. The kind who think kindness is weakness and anyone who works for their success is somehow less than. I've dealt with difficult customers, Brianna said. Not like this. These people will smile while looking for your vulnerabilities. They'll ask questions designed to make you uncomfortable, comment on your background, your education, your everything. Nicole leaned forward. So here's my advice. Don't try to impress them. Don't play their game. Just be yourself, hold Ethan's hand, and remember that you're there because you're kind enough to help someone who needed it. And because I needed the money, Brianna added honestly. That too. Nothing wrong with that. Nicole grinned. I like you. You're real. They spent the rest of dinner going over potential scenarios. Nicole had attended enough society events to know the playbook. She explained who would be there, who to avoid, how to deflect invasive questions. Ethan mostly listened, occasionally adding details, watching Brianna with an expression she couldn't quite interpret. You're nervous, Brianna said to him as they left the restaurant. Nicole having hugged them both and promised to see them at the hotel Friday. Shouldn't I be? I'm about to watch my ex-fiancée marry someone else. Do you still love her? The question hung between them in the cool February air. Ethan was quiet for a long moment, then shook his head. No. I don't think I have for a while. But I hate that she still has power over me. That an invitation to her wedding made me desperate enough to approach a stranger with an insane proposal. Maybe after this weekend that power ends, Brianna suggested. Maybe. He held a cab for her. Thank you for doing this. For saying yes. For not making me feel pathetic about needing help. Thank you for saving my bookstore. Brianna hesitated, then added, and for being kind about it. You could have negotiated, offered less, made demands. You didn't. Kindness isn't a negotiation, Ethan said simply. See you Friday morning. We leave at 10. Brianna rode home thinking about that statement. In her experience, everything was a negotiation. Every vendor relationship, every lease renewal, every payment plan. But Ethan had approached their arrangement differently. He'd offered more than necessary, made sure she was comfortable, brought his sister to help prepare her. He'd been, in every interaction, genuinely decent. This weekend she decided she would be the best fake girlfriend anyone had ever seen. Not just because of the money, though that mattered enormously, but because Ethan Rodriguez deserved to walk into that wedding with his head high, and if Brianna could help make that happen, she would. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nicole. He hasn't stopped smiling since dinner. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. Brianna smiled at her screen and typed back, just being myself like you said. Perfect. That's exactly what he needs. The car that picked Brianna up Friday morning was not the modest sedan she'd expected. It was a sleek black SUV with leather seats and a driver named Thomas who treated her like she was actually important. Her suitcase, packed with the beautiful clothes from the boutique and her own toiletries that suddenly seemed shabby by comparison, was whisked away before she could offer to handle it herself. Ethan was already in the back seat, wearing dark jeans and a blue button-down with the sleeves rolled up, looking at his tablet. He glanced up when she climbed in and something flickered across his face. Appreciation maybe. You look nice, he said. Brianna had chosen simple black pants and a green sweater, comfortable for travel. So do you? Very casual billionaire. It's a 3-hour drive to the Hamptons. I figured we'd both be more comfortable if I wasn't in a suit. He set aside the tablet. Nicole's driving separately. She had some work to finish this morning. The car pulled into traffic and Brianna watched New York City slide past the window. She'd lived here for 7 years and still felt like a tourist sometimes, still got excited seeing the skyline, still loved the way the city constantly reinvented itself. Nervous? Ethan asked. Terrified, she admitted. I keep thinking about all the ways I could mess this up. Say the wrong thing, use the wrong fork, accidentally reveal we barely know each other. You won't. Just follow my lead, and if you get uncomfortable, squeeze my hand twice. That's our signal to extract from whatever conversation we're in. It was such a small thing, a contingency plan, but it made Brianna feel better. What's your signal if you need out? I'll adjust my watch. Left hand, right wrist. Nicole and I used that code as kids when family dinners got overwhelming. They fell into comfortable conversation as the city gave way to suburbs, then to the prettier landscapes of Long Island. Ethan told her about TechVista's early days, working from a studio apartment, living on ramen and coffee, coding until dawn. Brianna shared stories about opening pages and dreams, the first customer who bought 3 books and told her the store felt magical, the kids' reading hour she started that now drew 20 children every Saturday. Why books? Ethan asked. In an age when everyone reads on screens, why open a physical bookstore? Because books are more than words on pages. They're objects with weight and texture. They smell like possibility. You can write in their margins, fold their corners, carry them in your bag until they're soft and worn. Brianna gestured as she spoke, passionate. A screen can give you the same story, sure. But it can't give you the experience of browsing, of stumbling across something you didn't know you needed, of having a bookseller who knows you well enough to recommend the perfect thing. You really love it. It's the only thing I've ever loved that didn't let me down. The words came out more bitter than intended. Brianna cleared her throat. Sorry? That sounded dramatic. No, I get it. Ethan was quiet for a moment. After Lauren, I felt the same way about work. Business made sense. Effort equaled results. No games, no hidden agendas. Just problems to solve and solutions to implement. Is that lonely? The question seemed to surprise him. Sometimes. Nicole says I built walls so high that no one can climb them. She's not wrong. He looked at Brianna. What about you? Anyone in your life? There was someone. Derek. We dated for 2 years. He was a lawyer, very practical, very logical. He gave me an ultimatum last year. Close the bookstore, get a real job, marry him and start a family. Brianna smiled without humor. I chose the bookstore. Do you regret it? Not even a little. He wanted me to be smaller, to fit into his vision of what a wife should be. The bookstore lets me be as big as I want. Good, Ethan said firmly. Never make yourself smaller for someone else. They stopped for lunch at a small seafood place overlooking the water. The restaurant was nearly empty, the off-season quiet settling over everything. They sat by a window, ordered lobster rolls and sweet tea, and talked about everything except the wedding. Brianna learned that Ethan played piano but hadn't touched one in years, that he spoke Spanish fluently and basic Mandarin poorly, that his guilty pleasure was reality TV cooking competitions. He learned that she could juggle, that she'd once won a karaoke contest singing Aretha Franklin, that she collected vintage bookmarks and had over 300. 300. Ethan laughed. Why? Every single one has a story. Where I found it, what book I was reading, who gave it to me. They're little artifacts of moments. She pulled one from her purse, a delicate metal one shaped like a tree. My grandmother gave me this when I turned 16. Said I was growing strong roots. Ethan held it carefully like it was precious. She sounds amazing. She was. Tough and kind in equal measure. She would have liked you, I think. Why? Because you remember where you came from. She always said the most dangerous people are the ones who forget their struggles once they're comfortable. I could never forget, Ethan said quietly. Every success feels like I'm proving something to everyone who said I couldn't. Including myself. Back in the car, the landscape grew prettier. Sprawling estates replaced strip malls, private beaches stretched beyond manicured lawns. This was old money territory, generational wealth that built monuments to itself. Does it bother you? Brianna asked. That Lauren chose this over you? It used to. I drive myself crazy wondering what I lacked, how I could have been better. Then I built my second company, then my third. Made more money than the Montgomerys or Blackwells. And you know what? It didn't fix anything. The hurt didn't care about my bank balance. What did fix it? Time. Therapy. Nicole forcing me to deal with my feelings instead of burying them in work. He smiled slightly. This weekend is kind of my final exam. Proof that I'm actually healed and not just pretending. And if you're not? Then I'll deal with that too. But with you there, I think I'll be okay. The hotel appeared like something from a movie. Massive white columns, sweeping circular driveway, gardens that probably required a full-time staff. Brianna felt her stomach clench with nervousness. Hey, Ethan said softly, taking her hand. We've got this. Just remember you're doing me a favor. Everyone else can think whatever they want. The lobby was all marble and crystal chandeliers. Checking in took minutes, the staff clearly familiar with Ethan's name. They were given keys to a suite on the 4th floor, 2 bedrooms with a shared living area. I made sure we'd have separate rooms, Ethan said as they rode the elevator up. I know the arrangement is already weird. I didn't want you to be uncomfortable. Thank you. Brianna meant it. Every consideration he'd made, every small kindness made this easier. The suite was stunning. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the ocean, furniture that looked antique and priceless, a full bar and sitting area. Brianna's room had a king bed with the softest sheets she'd ever touched and a bathroom bigger than her bookstore's office. Rehearsal dinner is at 7, Ethan called from the living area. That gives us 3 hours to mentally prepare or panic. Your choice. Brianna chose to take a bath in the enormous tub, trying to settle her nerves. This was really happening. In a few hours, she'd be surrounded by people who existed in a completely different world, pretending to be in love with a man she'd known for less than a week. The strange thing was, pretending was getting easier. Ethan was easy to talk to, genuinely interesting, kind in ways that felt natural rather than performed. If circumstances were different, if they'd met normally, she could see herself actually falling for him. But these weren't normal circumstances. This was a business arrangement with a clear beginning and end. In 2 days, she'd be back in Brooklyn with her bookstore saved and her life back on track. Ethan would return to his empire, and they'd become a weird story they each occasionally told at parties. Her phone buzzed. Nicole, just arrived. Ready to watch some rich people drama? Brianna typed back, as ready as I'll ever be. Perfect. Remember, you're the main character tonight. Own it. Looking at herself in the mirror, wearing a plush hotel robe with her curls wrapped in a towel, Brianna took a deep breath. She'd survived worse than a fancy dinner party. She'd survived her bookstore nearly failing, relationships ending, dreams almost dying. She could survive one weekend in the Hamptons. She could survive anything as long as she remembered who she really was underneath whatever role she was playing. The emerald green dress fit like it had been made for Brianna's body specifically. The hair and makeup artist Jordan had sent, a cheerful woman named Simone, had worked magic with her curls, styling them into an elegant updo with a few tendrils framing her face. The makeup was more dramatic than Brianna usually wore but somehow still looked like her, just amplified. "You look beautiful," Ethan said when she emerged from her room. He'd changed into a perfectly tailored navy suit with no tie, the top button of his white shirt undone. Something shifted in his expression when he saw her, an intensity that made her breath catch. "You clean up pretty well yourself," she managed. He offered his arm. "Ready to face the wolves? With you?" "Yes." The rehearsal dinner was in the hotel's private dining room, a space that probably hosted presidential summits and peace negotiations. About 40 people mingled with champagne glasses, their laughter the practiced kind that came from years of social training. Brianna recognized wealth in the way they stood, the way they held their drinks, the casual confidence of people who'd never questioned their place in the world. Nicole appeared immediately, stunning in a red dress that complemented her olive skin. "You both look perfect." "Ethan, try to smile like you're happy instead of facing a firing squad." "I am smiling." "You're grimacing. There's a difference." Nicole linked arms with Brianna. "Come on. Let's make an entrance." They walked into the room together and Brianna felt the attention shift. Conversations paused. Heads turned. She kept her spine straight, her smile easy, channeling every ounce of confidence she'd learned from years of presenting to skeptical bankers and dismissive landlords. "Ethan Rodriguez." A woman's voice cut through the murmur, and the crowd parted like the Red Sea. Lauren Montgomery was beautiful in the way of women who'd had every advantage since birth. Blonde hair that fell in perfect waves, blue eyes that assessed and calculated, a white cocktail dress that probably cost more than Brianna's car. She glided toward them with practiced grace, her smile sharp. "I'm so glad you could make it," Lauren said, kissing Ethan on both cheeks like they were old friends. Her gaze slid to Brianna. "And you brought someone. How wonderful." "Lauren, this is Brianna Hayes," Ethan said, his hand settling possessively on Brianna's lower back. "My girlfriend. Brianna Lauren Montgomery, the bride." "Congratulations on your wedding," Brianna said warmly, extending her hand. Lauren's handshake was limp, perfunctory. "Thank you." "As you said, I don't think I know any Hayes families." "I wouldn't expect you to. I own a bookstore in Brooklyn." "A bookstore?" Lauren's smile didn't reach her eyes. How quaint. Ethan always did have eclectic tastes. "I prefer to call it appreciating substance over status," Ethan said smoothly. "Brianna's built something meaningful from the ground up. Not everyone can say that." The barb landed. Lauren's smile tightened fractionally. "Well, you must tell me all about it. Preston will be so interested to hear about Ethan's new life." She drifted away and Nicole exhaled. "Round one to you guys." "Did you see her face when you mentioned the bookstore?" "She looked at me like I was the help," Brianna said. "Because in her world you are. Anyone who works for their success instead of inheriting it doesn't register as an equal." Nicole squeezed her arm. "But we're going to change that tonight. Come on, I'll introduce you to the decent humans here. There are approximately 3 of them." The evening became a blur of introductions. Preston Blackwell III was exactly what Brianna expected. Tall, bland, handsome in a generic way, with the personality of expensive wallpaper. He shook Ethan's hand with aggressive firmness and barely acknowledged Brianna's existence. "Tech sector," he said when someone asked what he did. "Family investments mostly. Nothing as pedestrian as building companies." "Must be nice to have other people's work support your lifestyle," Ethan said mildly. Preston's jaw clenched, but Lauren appeared with a laugh that sounded like wind chimes. "Boys play nice. This is my rehearsal dinner, not a board meeting." They were seated at a long table, Ethan and Brianna across from Lauren and Preston. The courses came in endless succession, each more elaborate than the last. Brianna focused on following Ethan's lead with the silverware, grateful for the etiquette basics Nicole had taught her over lunch earlier in the week. "So Brianna," Lauren said during the third course, her voice carrying down the table. "Brooklyn. Is that where you're from originally?" "I grew up in Atlanta. Moved to New York for college." "Which college?" "Brooklyn College." "Oh." The single syllable conveyed volumes. "I went to Vassar myself. Preston went to Yale, of course." And Ethan was Columbia, weren't you, darling? The casual endearment made Brianna's hand tighten on her fork. Ethan covered it with his own, squeezing gently. I was, he said. Where I learned that pedigree matters less than what you do with your education. Spoken like someone who had to work for everything, Preston said, and it wasn't a compliment. I did, Ethan replied evenly. It taught me the value of things. How to appreciate what I have because I remember what it's like to have nothing. How inspirational, Lauren cooed. You always were so determined, Ethan. I remember when you were building that first little company, working all those hours. I barely saw you. I was building a future, Ethan said. The one you told me wasn't enough. The table went silent. Lauren's smile froze. Preston looked like he wanted to disappear into his chair. Nicole caught Brianna's eye and gave a tiny thumbs up under the table. People change, Lauren said finally. We were young. We wanted different things. We did, Ethan agreed. I wanted someone who loved me for who I was. You wanted someone who already had everything handed to them. Looks like we both got what we wanted. He raised Brianna's hand to his lips and kissed her knuckles, his eyes never leaving Lauren's face. It was performative, absolutely, but Brianna felt the touch down to her toes. How did you two meet? Asked an older woman Brianna had been introduced to as Preston's aunt. Ethan came into my bookstore looking for a gift for Nicole, Brianna said, the practice story rolling easily off her tongue. He was completely lost, standing in the romance section looking confused. I took pity on him. She recommended the perfect book, Ethan added. Then we spent 2 hours talking about everything except why I was actually there. I asked her to dinner before I even remembered to buy the book. And you said yes to this stranger? Lauren laughed. How trusting. I said yes because he was genuine, Brianna replied. No pretense, no games. Just a man who listened when I talked and made me laugh. That felt rare. It is rare, Nicole chimed in. Brianna's the best thing that's happened to my brother in years. You should see them together normally. It's actually nauseating how cute they are. The conversation shifted, but Brianna felt Lauren's gaze on her throughout the rest of dinner. Assessing, calculating, trying to find weaknesses. When dessert was served, an elaborate creme brulee, Lauren leaned across the table. Ethan, do you remember the summers in the Hamptons when we were engaged? The parties, the sailing, all those beautiful mornings? I remember working remotely while you partied, Ethan said. I remember feeling like I was always performing for your friends, never quite measuring up. That's not fair. Isn't it? His voice was gentle, which somehow made it worse. You loved the idea of me, Lauren. The ambitious guy from nowhere making something of himself. But you didn't love the reality. The late nights, the risks, the possibility of failure. You wanted the success without the struggle. And you found someone who doesn't mind the struggle? Lauren's eyes flicked to Brianna. I found someone who understands it, Ethan corrected. Someone who's building her own dream and knows what it costs. Someone real. After dinner, they mingled in the adjoining room. Brianna found herself cornered by a group of women who asked increasingly invasive questions disguised as friendly conversation. Where did her family live? What did her father do? Had she traveled much? Each question designed to highlight the gaps between their worlds. My father worked construction, Brianna said clearly. My mother was a teacher. I've traveled to 12 countries, all paid for by myself through careful saving and budget flights. And my bookstore may not be a Fortune 500 company, but it's mine, built from my own work and vision. I'm proud of that. One of the women, a redhead in Chanel, actually smiled with what looked like genuine approval. Good for you. Half the people here have never worked a day in their lives. At least you've actually accomplished something. Caroline, another woman hissed. What? It's true. Preston's never had an original thought. Lauren's only skill is looking pretty and spending her trust fund. At least this girl has substance. Caroline raised her glass to Brianna. Welcome to the circus. Brianna liked her immediately. Ethan found her an hour later, looking exhausted. Ready to escape? God, yes. They said their goodbyes, Lauren kissing Ethan's cheek and whispering something Brianna couldn't hear. His face remained neutral, but his hand tightened on Brianna's. In the elevator, finally alone, Ethan leaned against the wall and closed his eyes. Thank you. You were perfect. I just told the truth. Exactly. He opened his eyes, looking at her with something that made her heart skip. You didn't try to be someone you're not. You didn't let them make you feel small. You were confident and real and so beautiful that Lauren couldn't stand it. She still loves you, Brianna said quietly. No, she doesn't. She loves the idea of me now that I'm successful. She wants what she can't have. That's not the same thing. He reached out, tucking a loose curl behind Brianna's ear. Tomorrow's the wedding. The hard part. We'll get through it. Together, he said, and it sounded like a promise. In her room, Brianna changed into pajamas and sat by the window, looking out at the dark ocean. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "How's the weekend going? Still can't believe you're at a Hamptons wedding." Brianna had told her mother a version of the truth. That she was attending a wedding with a friend who needed a +1, that it was at a fancy hotel, that she'd be back Sunday. Her mother had been thrilled, hopeful that Brianna was finally getting out and meeting people. "It's surreal," Brianna typed back. "But interesting. Are you having fun?" Was she? Brianna considered the question. The evening had been stressful, performative, filled with people who looked down on her. But there had been moments. Ethan's hand in hers. Nicole's fierce friendship. The satisfaction of not backing down when Lauren tried to diminish her. The feeling of being part of a team, even a temporary one. "Yeah," she typed. "I think I am." A knock on the connecting door between her room and the living area made her look up. "Come in." Ethan appeared in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking more relaxed than she'd seen him all day. "Can't sleep. Want to watch bad TV and raid the minibar?" Brianna smiled. "Absolutely." They ended up on the living room couch, watching a cooking competition with their feet on the coffee table, sharing expensive whiskey and even more expensive chocolate. They didn't talk about the wedding or Lauren or what would happen after this weekend. They just existed together in easy companionship, laughing at the TV drama, arguing about whether the chocolate mousse or the creme brulee should win. "This is nice," Ethan said eventually. "Just being. No performance, no agenda." "We should do this more often," Brianna said, then caught herself. "I mean, if we were actually dating. Which we're not. Obviously." "Obviously," Ethan echoed, but something in his voice made her look at him. He was watching her with an expression that made breathing difficult. "Although, for the record, if we were actually dating, this would be my favorite part. Not the fancy dinners or events. Just this. You in pajamas, stealing my chocolate, arguing about reality TV. For the record, you gave me the chocolate. See? I'm an excellent pretend boyfriend." They fell asleep on the couch, the TV still playing softly, the minibar thoroughly raided. When Brianna woke around 3 in the morning, Ethan's head was on her shoulder, his breathing deep and even. She should move, go to her own room, maintain the professional distance this arrangement required. Instead, she stayed right where she was, letting herself have this one moment of pretending that it was all real. Brianna woke to sunlight streaming through the windows and the smell of coffee. She was in her own bed with no memory of getting there, still wearing her pajamas. A note on the nightstand in Ethan's handwriting said, "You fell asleep. I carried you. Hope that's okay." Coffee in the living room. She smiled despite herself, then caught her reflection in the mirror and winced. Her carefully styled hair from last night was now a disaster, makeup smudged, but somehow she felt more rested than she had in months. She showered quickly, changed into comfortable clothes, and found Ethan on the balcony with a room service spread that could feed 10 people. "I didn't know what you liked," he said, gesturing at the pancakes, eggs, fruit, pastries, and various breakfast meats covering the table. "So I ordered everything. This is insane. This is Saturday morning before my ex gets married. I'm stress eating. Join me." They ate in comfortable silence, watching the ocean. Other hotel guests were already on the beach, small figures against the vast expanse of sand and water. The wedding wasn't until 4, which meant they had hours to fill with mounting anxiety. Nicole texted, Ethan said, showing her his phone. "She wants to take you to the spa. Her treat. Something about solidarity among women dealing with awful people. I've never been to a spa. Then you should definitely go. I'll work remotely, pretend I'm not spiraling about today." An hour later, Brianna found herself in a plush robe, sitting next to Nicole in the hotel spa's relaxation room, cucumbers on their eyes and face masks making conversation difficult. "Can I ask you something?" Nicole said, removing her cucumbers. "Sure. Are you developing feelings for my brother?" Brianna's heart jumped. "We barely know each other." "That's not an answer. It's a business arrangement," Brianna said carefully. "I'm helping him, he's helping me. After tomorrow, we go back to our separate lives. But you like him. He's a good person. Easy to talk to. Kind in ways I didn't expect." Nicole was quiet for a moment. "Ethan doesn't let people in. After Lauren, he built these walls and just kept working, kept succeeding, kept proving he didn't need anyone. You're the first person I've seen him relax around in 3 years. That's the arrangement." He needs to look happy, in love, moved on. I've seen him pretend before. This isn't pretending. Nicole sat up, looking at Brianna directly. I'm not trying to make this weird. I just want you to know that whatever happens this weekend, you've already helped him more than you realize. He's laughing again. Actually talking about feelings. Sleeping on couches instead of working until dawn. That's because of you. I think it's because he's facing something he's been avoiding. I'm just the excuse. Maybe. Or maybe you're exactly what he needed. Nicole lay back down. Just don't break his heart, okay? The first time almost destroyed him. The words stayed with Brianna through her massage, her facial, the manicure that made her hands look elegant instead of constantly working. She thought about Ethan carrying her to bed, ordering too much breakfast, the way he'd held her hand through dinner like it was the most natural thing in the world. She was developing feelings. Real ones. The kind that would hurt when this ended. Back in the suite, she found Ethan on his laptop, video conferencing with someone about quarterly projections. He looked up when she entered, his face softening. Feel better? Much. Thank you for sending me. Nicole's idea, but I'm glad. He closed the laptop. I need to tell you something. Lauren came to my room this morning. Brianna's stomach dropped. What did she want? To talk. She said seeing me last night made her realize she made a mistake. That she's been comparing Preston to me for 3 years and he's always come up short. Ethan ran a hand through his hair. She asked me to stop her from making another mistake. Said if I still had feelings for her, she'd call off the wedding. What did you say? I said no. That I had moved on, that I had someone who actually valued me, that she'd made her choice years ago. He looked at Brianna. Then she offered you money. What? $50,000 to disappear before the wedding. She said you were obviously with me for money anyway, that I deserved someone from my own world, that she was trying to protect me. His voice was tight with anger. I told her she had 60 seconds to leave my room or I'd have hotel security remove her. Brianna sat down heavily. She actually thinks I'd take money and leave? She thinks everyone has a price. It's how she sees the world. Ethan knelt in front of her. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have let her in, shouldn't have listened. I just wanted to know if I felt anything, if seeing her vulnerable would change something. Did it? Yeah. Made me realize how much I've changed. 3 years ago I would have said yes in a heartbeat. Would have believed her, taken her back, convinced myself it was love. He took Brianna's hands. But now, I felt nothing except pity. She's about to marry someone she doesn't love, spend her life in a comfortable cage and call it success. I don't want that. I don't want her. What do you want? The question came out whisper soft. Ethan looked at her for a long moment. I'm starting to think I want something real. Something that scares me because it matters. Something that isn't based on transactions or arrangements or proving points. The air between them felt charged. Brianna knew she should pull away, remind them both that this was temporary, that she was being paid to be here. Instead, she found herself leaning closer. Ethan. A knock on the door broke the moment. Simone's cheerful voice called, hair and makeup time. The wedding's in 3 hours and we've got work to do. Ethan stood, clearing his throat. Right. The wedding. The reason we're here. The arrangement, Brianna added, though the word felt hollow now. Yeah. The arrangement. Simone transformed Brianna into someone who looked like they belonged at a society wedding. The blue dress fit perfectly, the jewelry sparkled at her throat and wrists, her hair fell in elegant waves down her back. When she emerged from her room, Ethan was adjusting his tie in the mirror, wearing a charcoal suit that made him look like he'd stepped out of a magazine. Wow, they said simultaneously, then laughed. You look stunning, Ethan said. You look pretty good yourself. Nicole burst in wearing a gorgeous yellow dress, her hair styled in an intricate updo. Okay, pep talk time. We're about to walk into a wedding where the bride is in love with the wrong groom, the groom is oblivious, and half the guests are waiting for drama. Our job is to look so happy, so in love, so perfectly matched that Lauren regrets every choice she's ever made. No pressure, Brianna muttered. You've got this. Both of you. Nicole looked between them. Although real talk? You two are doing a terrible job of pretending this is fake. The way you look at each other is genuinely disgusting. In a sweet way. We're committed to the role, Ethan said. Sure. The role. That's what we're calling it. Nicole grinned. Come on. Let's go break some hearts. The ceremony was in the hotel's gardens, rows of white chairs facing an elaborate arbor covered in white roses and trailing greenery. Guests were already seated, dressed in their finest, whispering behind programs. Brianna recognized faces from the rehearsal dinner, saw them tracking Ethan's entrance, noting Brianna on his arm. They sat 3 rows back. Ethan's hand found hers, their fingers intertwining naturally. Nicole sat on his other side, creating a buffer against Preston's family. The string quartet began playing. The wedding party processed down the aisle, bridesmaids in blush pink, groomsmen in matching suits. Then Lauren appeared on her father's arm, and the guests gasped appropriately. She was beautiful in the way of magazine covers and Pinterest boards, her dress a confection of white silk and lace, her veil trailing behind her like a cloud. As she walked past their row, her eyes found Ethan. Something flickered across her face, regret or longing or manipulation, Brianna couldn't tell. Ethan's expression remained neutral, but his hand tightened on Brianna's. The ceremony was traditional, predictable. The officiant spoke about love and commitment. Preston and Lauren exchanged vows they'd probably written with a professional writer. Rings were exchanged, promises made. And through it all, Brianna watched Ethan, trying to read his emotions. "You may kiss the bride." Preston lifted Lauren's veil and kissed her with more enthusiasm than chemistry. The guests applauded. The quartet played. The new Mr. and Mrs. Blackwell walked back down the aisle, Lauren's smile perfect and empty. "Are you okay?" Brianna whispered to Ethan. He looked at her and his expression was tender. "Yeah, I really am. I just watched her marry someone else and I feel relieved. Like I dodged something that would have destroyed me." "Good. Is it weird that I'm more interested in what happens next with you than anything about that ceremony?" Brianna's heart stuttered. "We should talk about that. After the reception. After this is all over and we're just us not performing." He brought her hand to his lips. "Deal?" "Deal." The cocktail hour was on the terrace, champagne and elaborate appetizers circulating among guests who were already gossiping about the ceremony. Brianna overheard someone saying Lauren had looked at Ethan more than Preston, that the whole thing felt performative. "It was performative," Caroline, the redhead from last night, said, joining Brianna at the railing. "Lauren's been in love with Ethan's bank account since he made his second billion. Preston's just the consolation prize her parents approved of. That's sad. That's society weddings. Half these marriages are mergers, not love stories." Caroline studied Brianna. "You and Ethan, though. That's different. The way he looks at you is how every woman wants to be looked at." "We've only been together 4 months, Brianna said, sticking to the script. "Sometimes 4 months with the right person matters more than 4 years with the wrong one." Caroline raised her glass. "I hope you make it. You seem genuine. That's rare in our world." The reception was in the grand ballroom, decorated with more flowers than Brianna had ever seen in one place. Their table was mercifully far from the head table, surrounded by Ethan's business associates and their partners. The conversation was actually interesting, people who'd built companies and solved problems, who asked Brianna about her bookstore with real interest. Dinner was another elaborate affair. Speeches were made, toasts given. Lauren's father talked about how perfect Preston was, how glad he was to welcome him into the family. Preston's best man made jokes that fell flat. And through it all, Lauren's gaze kept drifting to Ethan's table. "She's going to do something," Nicole predicted. "I can feel it. This whole day has been too smooth." She was right. After the first dance, after the cake cutting, after 2 hours of mingling and drinking, Lauren appeared at their table. She was slightly drunk, her perfect composure cracking at the edges. "Ethan, dance with me," she said. "Not a question, a demand. For old time's sake." "I don't think that's appropriate," Ethan said evenly. "One dance. The bride can ask anyone to dance." She held out her hand. "Unless you're afraid." It was a challenge delivered in front of a dozen witnesses. Ethan looked at Brianna and she nodded slightly. Refusing would create more drama than complying. "One dance," he agreed. Brianna watched them move to the dance floor, Lauren's hand on Ethan's shoulder, his carefully positioned on her waist with maximum distance between them. They moved stiffly, tension visible even from across the room. "This is going to end badly," Nicole muttered. Lauren was talking, her expression animated. Ethan's face remained neutral, but Brianna could read his body language. Uncomfortable. Annoyed. Done. Then Lauren went on her toes and kissed him. The ballroom went silent. Preston stood from the head table, his face red. Ethan pulled away immediately, but the damage was done. Cameras had caught it. Guests were staring. The perfect wedding had just become a scandal. Ethan walked directly to Brianna, ignoring the whispers. He took her hand and pulled her to her feet. "We're leaving," he said. "Ethan, wait," Lauren called, but he ignored her. They walked out of the ballroom together, Nicole following. Behind them they could hear Preston shouting, Lauren crying, chaos erupting. They didn't stop until they reached the elevator. "I'm sorry," Ethan said, punching the button repeatedly. "I should have refused. I shouldn't have let her manipulate me into." "It's okay," Brianna interrupted. "It's not. This whole thing has been a disaster." "No," Brianna said firmly. "You faced something you've been dreading for 3 years. You proved to yourself that you're over her. And you walked away instead of getting pulled back into her drama. That's not a disaster. That's growth." The elevator doors opened. They rode up in silence, Nicole tactfully checking her phone to give them space. In the suite, Ethan paced like a caged animal. "She told me she made a mistake. That she's always loved me. That Preston was just what her parents wanted, but I'm what she needs." He laughed bitterly. "She actually asked me to tell her I love her, right there on the dance floor in the middle of her wedding reception." "What did you say?" "That I stopped loving her 3 years ago. That I'd found someone worth my time and heart. That she should focus on her marriage instead of ruining mine." He stopped pacing, looking at Brianna. "Except we're not married. We're not even really together. I'm paying you to be here." "Is that what you think this is?" Brianna asked quietly. "Just a transaction? I don't know what this is anymore. I don't know if what I'm feeling is real or just gratitude or relief or—" He broke off. "I'm a mess, Brianna. I'm standing here on what should have been the worst night of my life, and all I can think about is that I want to kiss you. Actually kiss you. Not for show, not for Lauren's benefit, just because I've been wanting to since you first walked into my bookstore, Chase, and looked at me like I was worth saving." The air left Brianna's lungs. "Ethan. Tell me I'm not alone in this. Tell me the past 2 days haven't just been acting for you." She should maintain professional distance. She should remember that in 12 hours this arrangement ended and they went back to their separate lives. She should be smart and careful and protect her heart. Instead, she crossed the room and kissed him. The kiss was nothing like the performance at the rehearsal dinner. This was real, urgent, 3 days of building tension finally breaking free. Ethan's hands cupped her face like she was precious, and Brianna's fingers tangled in his hair, pulling him closer. They kissed like people who'd been starving, finally allowed to feast. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Ethan pressed his forehead to hers. "That was real," Brianna finished. "That was real. So what do we do now?" Before she could answer, Nicole's voice came from the other room. "I'm going to my own suite and pretending I didn't see any of that. You two figure out your feelings like adults. Text me when you remember how to think." The door closed behind her and they were alone. Brianna stepped back, trying to clear her head. "We should talk about this." "We should," Ethan agreed, but he didn't move away. "Except I'm having trouble forming coherent thoughts when you're standing there looking like that." "Like what?" "Like everything I didn't know I was looking for." The words should have been cheesy, but his voice was so sincere that Brianna felt them down to her bones. "This is complicated. The best things usually are. You're paying me to be here. That makes this messy. So I'll stop paying you." Ethan said it like it was simple. "The arrangement ends right now. You've more than earned the full amount. But from this moment forward, anything that happens between us is real. No transaction, no performance, just two people figuring out if this thing between us is worth exploring. And if it's not? If we realize it was just the intensity of the situation, the heightened emotions, the forced proximity, then we walk away knowing we tried." "But Brianna?" He stepped closer. "I don't think that's what this is. I think I started falling for you the moment you accepted my insane proposal without hesitation. Every conversation since has just made me fall harder." Her phone buzzed. Then both their phones erupted with notifications. Brianna checked hers to find texts from her mother, messages from numbers she didn't recognize, and 3 missed calls from Nicole. "What's happening?" she asked. Ethan was staring at his phone, his face pale. "We're trending on social media. Someone posted video of Lauren kissing me. It's everywhere." He turned his screen toward her. The video had over 1 million views already. The comments were brutal. People calling Lauren desperate, Preston a fool, speculating about Ethan's mystery date. Someone had already identified Brianna, linked to her bookstore's Instagram, started dissecting every detail of her life. "This is bad," Brianna said. "This is a nightmare." Ethan was scrolling through comment after comment. "Your store is getting review bombed by people who think you're a homewrecker. They're saying you broke up Lauren and Preston's marriage. I was sitting at a table while your ex-fiancé kissed you without consent. How is that my fault?" "It's not. But social media doesn't care about facts." He kept scrolling, his expression growing darker. Someone posted your address. People are threatening to protest your bookstore. Brianna felt sick. She'd agreed to help Ethan face his past, not to have her entire life torn apart by strangers on the internet. What do we do? I have a PR team. Let me call them. We'll issue a statement, clarify what happened, protect you from this. He was already dialing. Jordan, I need full damage control. Yes, now. I don't care what time it is. My girlfriend is being harassed online because of something that wasn't her fault. Girlfriend. He'd said it so naturally, like it was fact rather than performance. While Ethan talked strategy with his team, Brianna scrolled through the comments on her bookstore's page. Most were vicious, but some were supportive. People who'd actually been to Pages and Dreams defending her character, regular customers vouching for her integrity. She found one comment from someone named Booklover47, I was at that wedding. The bride kissed him. He immediately left with his actual girlfriend. Stop making victims into villains. The reply had over 10,000 likes. Nicole knocked and entered without waiting. Okay, crisis management time. First, neither of you looks at social media for the next 24 hours. Second, we craft a narrative that's true but protects Brianna. Third, we consider whether you want to go nuclear and tell the actual story of why you were at that wedding. We can't, Ethan said. We had an NDA, which you can waive if you choose to. The question is whether the truth helps or hurts. Nicole looked at Brianna. How would you feel about people knowing you were hired to be Ethan's date? I'd feel like it makes me look exactly how they're already painting me. A woman who's with him for money. Or, Nicole countered, it makes you look like someone who was kind enough to help a stranger face a difficult situation. A woman who showed up for someone who needed support, then accidentally developed real feelings despite the arrangement starting as business. That's what happened, Ethan said quietly, looking at Brianna. Isn't it? She nodded. Yeah, that's exactly what happened. By midnight, Ethan's PR team had released a statement. It explained the situation in careful terms. Ethan had attended his ex-fiancée's wedding to prove he'd moved on, met someone special in recent months, was building a genuine relationship when Lauren created an inappropriate situation. The statement expressed sympathy for Preston, made clear that Ethan and Brianna had no part in whatever issues existed in the Blackwell marriage and requested privacy. The narrative shifted slightly. People started focusing more on Lauren's behavior, on Preston's response, on the drama of old money society weddings. Brianna was still mentioned, but less viciously. Her bookstore's rating recovered as genuine customers rallied to support her. It's going to be okay, Ethan said around 2 in the morning. They were on the couch again, exhausted but too wired to sleep. The news cycle will move on. This will become a footnote. Will it though? This is your life. Cameras, scrutiny, everything you do analyzed by strangers. Brianna looked at him. Is that what I'm signing up for if this is real? Sometimes. When something newsworthy happens. But mostly no. I'm not a celebrity. I run a tech company. Most days nobody cares what I'm doing. He took her hand. But I won't lie and say there's no spotlight. There is. And it can be harsh. You deserve to know that before you decide if you want this. What do you want? Brianna asked. I want to take you on a real date when we get back to the city. I want to show up at your bookstore as a customer, buy a dozen books, and ask you to dinner properly. I want to see if what we've built in this weird pressure cooker translates to normal life. He paused. And eventually, if this works, I want to invest in your bookstore properly. Not as payment, but as someone who believes in what you're building and wants to be part of making it sustainable. That feels complicated. It doesn't have to be. You maintain full creative control, full ownership. I provide capital and business expertise. We structure it so that even if we don't work out romantically, the business arrangement protects you and your dream. Brianna was quiet, processing. 2 days ago, she'd been facing eviction, desperate and alone. Now she was sitting in a luxury hotel suite with a billionaire offering her everything she'd needed. It should feel too good to be true. But looking at Ethan, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes, the way he was offering without demanding, giving her space to choose her own path, it felt real. Complicated and messy and real. I want this, she said finally. Whatever this is, I want to see where it goes. But Ethan? I need us to figure out the business stuff separately from the relationship stuff. I can't mix them. It's too much. Done. The $50,000 you're owed for the wedding weekend is yours, no strings. After that, if you want to discuss business opportunities, we involve lawyers and accountants and make it professional. And the personal stuff. He smiled. That we figure out over bad coffee and good books. I serve excellent coffee, actually. I'm sure you do. But I'm going to bring you terrible bodega coffee anyway, just to see you make that face. What face? The one where you're trying not to laugh but can't quite help it. He demonstrated, and Brianna did exactly what he'd predicted. Her phone buzzed with a text from her mother. "Baby, I saw the videos. Are you okay? This man you're with, is he good to you?" Brianna typed back, "I'm okay. And yes, he's very good to me. I'll call you tomorrow and explain everything. As long as you're safe and happy. That's all that matters. Safe and happy." Brianna looked at Ethan, at the man who'd started as a desperate stranger and become someone she was genuinely falling for. She felt both of those things despite the chaos of the evening. "We should try to sleep," Ethan said. "Tomorrow's the brunch, then we drive home, then real life starts." "Are you nervous about real life?" "Terrified," he admitted. "This weekend has been intense but insulated. Out there we have jobs and responsibilities in daily life. What if the magic doesn't translate? What if it does?" He kissed her forehead. "Then I'm the luckiest man who ever made a desperate proposal in a bookstore." They went to their separate rooms, but Brianna couldn't sleep. She kept replaying the evening, the kiss, the conversation, the feeling that her life had fundamentally changed. She'd come to the Hamptons to save her bookstore and ended up finding something she hadn't known she was looking for. Around 4 in the morning, she heard Ethan's door open. Then a soft knock on hers. "Can't sleep either?" he asked when she opened it. "Too much happening. Want to watch the sunrise? The beach is probably empty." They snuck out of the hotel like teenagers, barefoot in comfortable clothes, walking through the quiet gardens to the sand. The sky was just beginning to lighten, deep blue fading to purple at the edges. They sat on the beach and Ethan put his arm around her shoulders. "This is nice," Brianna said. "This is perfect." They watched the sun come up over the Atlantic, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold and orange. Other early risers appeared, joggers and beachcombers, but Brianna and Ethan stayed in their bubble, just existing together. "Thank you," Ethan said quietly. "For saying yes. For being here. For giving this a chance even though it's complicated and weird and started in the strangest possible way. Thank you for saving my bookstore. And for being brave enough to ask for help. I'm going to kiss you again," he warned. "Not for show. Not because of Lauren or the wedding or anything except that I really want to." "Then do it." The kiss was different than the night before. Softer, slower, filled with promise instead of desperation. When they pulled apart, the sun was fully up, bathing everything in golden light. "Ready for the brunch?" Brianna asked. "Ready to face whatever comes next," Ethan corrected. "As long as you're with me." They walked back to the hotel hand in hand, ready to face one more performance before real life could begin. But it didn't feel like performing anymore. It felt like the start of something genuine, something worth the risk and complication. It felt like hope. The Sunday brunch was supposed to be a quiet affair, a casual gathering to send off the newlyweds before their honeymoon. Brianna dressed in white linen pants and a coral blouse, comfortable but appropriate. Ethan wore khakis and a blue shirt, looking relaxed despite the previous night's drama. "How bad do you think this will be?" Brianna asked as they walked to the restaurant. "On a scale of 1 to apocalyptic? Probably a solid 8. He squeezed her hand. "But we'll get through it together." The restaurant overlooked the ocean, all white tablecloths and fresh flowers. About 30 guests had gathered, significantly fewer than the previous night. Lauren and Preston were noticeably absent. "They left this morning," Caroline informed them, appearing with mimosas. "Emergency flight to Europe. Apparently, their relationship needed immediate couples therapy in the Swiss Alps." "That bad?" Nicole asked, joining their group. Preston found out Lauren tried to stop Ethan from leaving last night. Offered him money to take her back. The groom was not pleased. Caroline grinned. "It's the most interesting thing to happen at a society wedding in years. I'm almost grateful." They found their table, and Brianna was surprised to see it was just the three of them plus a couple she didn't recognize. The woman was black, beautiful and elegant, wearing a green sundress. The man beside her was white with kind eyes and an easy smile. "Brianna, this is Simone and her husband Michael," Ethan said. "Simone runs a foundation that supports women entrepreneurs. I thought you two should meet." "Not here for wedding drama?" Brianna asked with a smile. "Oh, I'm absolutely here for the drama," Simone laughed. "But Ethan's right, we should talk. I've been following your bookstore online. Community-focused, literature-forward, serving an underserved neighborhood? That's exactly what our foundation supports." They talked through brunch, Simone asking intelligent questions about Pages and Dreams, its mission, challenges, future plans. Brianna found herself opening up about her vision for expanding, creating more community programming, partnering with local schools. "We should definitely talk more," Simone said, exchanging business cards. "Our next grant cycle opens in 2 months. I think you'd be a strong candidate." After brunch, as guests mingled over coffee, Preston's father approached their table. He was an older version of Preston, distinguished but cold. "Mr. Rodriguez," he said formally, "I wanted to apologize for the spectacle last night. My new daughter-in-law's behavior was inappropriate and reflected poorly on both our families." "Your son deserves better," Ethan said evenly. "I hope they work things out, but that's between them." "Indeed." His gaze shifted to Brianna, assessing. "Miss Hayes, I understand you own a bookstore in Brooklyn." "I do." "How admirable. Small businesses are the backbone of our economy." It sounded like something he'd read on a bumper sticker. "I hope the attention from this weekend doesn't impact your business negatively. Actually, we've gotten a surge of supportive customers. People who appreciate community spaces and independent bookstores." Brianna met his eyes. "Sometimes controversy reveals who your real supporters are." He nodded curtly and moved on. Nicole let out a breath she'd been holding. That was Preston's father basically saying you're approved for Ethan to date. In their world, that matters. "Does it matter to us?" Brianna asked Ethan. "Not even a little bit." They left the brunch early, Nicole heading to her car and promising to check in during the week. The drive back to the city was quiet at first, both of them processing the weekend. "That actually went better than expected," Ethan said as they hit the highway. "No one threw food, no public confrontations. Preston's father didn't challenge me to a duel." "Is that a thing that happens at society events?" "You'd be surprised." He smiled. "What did you think of Simone?" "She seems incredible. The foundation work she described could actually change lives." "It does. I'm on the board. We fund about 50 entrepreneurs a year, provide mentorship, connections, sometimes direct capital investment." He glanced at her. "I wasn't setting you up. I genuinely thought you two should meet. But if you apply for the grant, I'll recuse myself from the decision. No conflicts of interest." "Thank you for that. Thank you for not being mad that I sort of ambushed you with a networking opportunity. How very billionaire of you. Can't even attend a brunch without conducting business." "Speaking of business," Ethan said carefully, "what happens when we get back? With us, I mean." Brianna had been thinking about exactly that. "I think we take it slow. Actual dates, getting to know each other outside of wedding drama. See if this works when we're not in a pressure cooker situation." "I can do slow. Although fair warning, I'm going to want to see you a lot. I've gotten used to having you around." "I've gotten used to being around." She hesitated. "But Ethan, I'm nervous about the different worlds we come from. Your life is private jets and galas and people like Preston's father evaluating whether I'm appropriate. My life is used books and budget spreadsheets and worrying about making rent. First, I don't own a private jet. I fly commercial like a normal person, just in first class. Second, I haven't been to a gala in 2 years because they're boring. Third, Preston's father is a snob whose opinion means nothing to me." He reached over and took her hand. "And fourth, our worlds aren't as different as you think. We both built something from nothing. We both value work and authenticity. We both know what it's like to struggle. The money just means I don't stress about rent anymore. It doesn't change who I am underneath." "Doesn't it though? Money changes everything. It changes circumstances, not character. I'm still the guy from Queens who learned to code in a public library. I still remember eating ramen for weeks to afford a server. I still know what it feels like to be looked down on by people like the Montgomerys." He paused. "Money gave me options and security. It didn't give me happiness. You know what's made me happy this weekend? Talking with you. Laughing on a couch. Watching the sunrise. None of that cost anything." Brianna was quiet, thinking. "My grandmother used to say that you can tell a lot about people by how they treat those who can do nothing for them. You've been kind to everyone this weekend. The hotel staff, the servers, even Lauren when she didn't deserve it. That says more about who you are than your bank account. Your grandmother sounds like she was wise." "She was. I wish you could have met her." "Tell me about her," Ethan said. "We have 2 more hours. I want to know everything." So Brianna told him. About Grandma Rose, who worked as a housekeeper but read philosophy in her spare time. About the way she collected books from yard sales and thrift stores, creating a library in her small apartment. About the stories she'd tell, mixing fairy tales with life lessons. About her insistence that education was freedom, that words had power, that everyone deserved a space where they could dream. Pages and Dreams, Ethan said softly. That's from her. She always said books let us dream bigger than our circumstances. That they showed us possibilities beyond what we could see. Brianna smiled. When I opened the store, I wanted it to be that for other people. A place where anyone could come and imagine a different life. You succeeded. I've seen the reviews online, the comments from customers. You've built something that matters to people. I hope so. It's what kept me going when I couldn't pay bills, when the landlord threatened eviction, when it would have been easier to quit. They stopped for late lunch at a diner off the highway, the kind of place with sticky menus and the best pie Brianna had ever tasted. Ethan ordered a burger and fries, completely at ease despite the casual setting. I thought billionaires only ate at fancy restaurants, Brianna teased. I eat at fancy restaurants when I need to impress clients. I eat at places like this when I want actual good food. He stole a fry from her plate. My mom used to take me and Nicole to a place like this after church on Sundays. Best memories of my childhood. Tell me about your mom. Ethan's expression softened. She was a teacher in the Dominican Republic before they came to the States. Couldn't get certified here, ended up working as a home health aide. But she never stopped teaching. She'd teach English to other immigrants at our church, help kids with homework, create these elaborate lesson plans for Nicole and me. He smiled. She died believing I'd do something important. I wish she'd lived to see the company go public. She knew, Brianna said with certainty. Parents always know when their kids are going to succeed. It's in the way you approach problems, the work ethic you showed, the values she instilled. She knew. Thank you for that. Back in the car, Brianna's phone started buzzing with messages. Her bookstore's social media had gained 5,000 followers overnight. Orders were coming in through her website from people across the country who'd read about her story. One message was from a news producer asking if she'd do an interview about running a bookstore in the modern economy. This is surreal, she said, scrolling through messages. 3 days ago I was about to lose everything. Now I have more attention than I know what to do with. Welcome to viral fame. It's overwhelming but usually temporary. Ethan glanced at her phone. The interview request, though. That could be good. Chance to talk about your business, promote the store, control your narrative. I don't know. I'm not good at that stuff. You were good at the wedding. You handled invasive questions, dismissive people, and Lauren's nonsense with grace. You can definitely handle a sympathetic interviewer asking about books. Brianna considered it. Maybe. Let me think about it. They reached Brooklyn as the sun was setting, the city skyline gorgeous against the darkening sky. Ethan pulled up in front of Brianna's apartment building, a walk-up in a neighborhood that was gentrifying but still affordable. This is me, she said, suddenly nervous. The weekend was over. Reality was starting. Can I walk you up? It's 4 flights and kind of shabby. I live for shabby. He grinned. Come on. Her apartment was small, a 1-bedroom she decorated with mismatched furniture and overflowing bookshelves. But it was clean and bright, with plants on the windowsill and art from local artists on the walls. Ethan looked around with genuine interest. It's very you, he said. Cozy. Welcoming. Full of stories. It's tiny compared to what you're used to. It's perfect. He pulled her close. Thank you for this weekend. For saying yes, for being patient with my mess, for taking a chance on something weird. Thank you for giving me the chance to save my store. And for being someone worth taking a chance on. He kissed her, soft and sweet like they had all the time in the world. When he pulled back he was smiling. Dinner tomorrow? Real date, no wedding drama, just us. I'd like that. Good. I'll pick you up at 7. Wear something comfortable. I'm thinking pizza and maybe a walk through Prospect Park. That sounds perfect. After he left, Brianna sat on her couch, processing everything. Her phone buzzed with a text from Nicole. My brother hasn't stopped smiling since he dropped you off. Whatever you did, thank you for bringing him back to life. Another text came through, this one from an unknown number. This is Lauren. We need to talk about what happened. Call me. Brianna deleted it without responding. That chapter was closed. The future, uncertain but hopeful, was what mattered now. She opened her laptop and started responding to the messages about her bookstore, each one a reminder that sometimes the strangest beginnings led to the most beautiful possibilities. Monday morning, Brianna woke to the sound of voices outside her apartment. Confused, she looked out the window to find a small crowd gathered on the sidewalk, some holding phones, others with professional cameras. Her heart sank. The media had found her address. She called Ethan immediately. There are reporters outside my building. Don't go out there. I'm sending a car and security. Give me 20 minutes. True to his word, a black SUV arrived with two professional-looking people who efficiently created a path for Brianna to reach the vehicle. Questions were shouted as she walked, cameras flashing. She kept her head down, saying nothing until she was safely inside. "This is Marcus," the driver said, "and that's Tanya. We work for Mr. Rodriguez's security company. We'll be making sure you can move around safely until this media attention dies down." "This feels excessive." "This is standard for high-profile situations," Tanya said kindly. "Trust us, it's better to have us than to deal with aggressive photographers alone." They drove her to Pages and Dreams. The bookstore had its own cluster of media outside, but also a line of actual customers waiting for opening. Brianna felt her anxiety ease slightly. Her community was showing up. Inside, she found flowers covering the counter. Bouquets from regular customers, from local business owners, from people she'd never met who just wanted to support her. There was one massive arrangement of roses with a card. "For the woman who saved my weekend and maybe my life." The day was chaos in the best possible way. Customers came in steady waves, many buying multiple books, telling her they'd seen the story and wanted to support an independent bookstore. She sold more in one day than she typically did in a week. Jordan appeared around noon with takeout and a tablet. "Ethan's in meetings all day but wanted me to check on you. How are you holding up?" "Overwhelmed but okay. This is all so much. It'll calm down in a few days. For now, ride the wave." Jordan pulled up a spreadsheet. "I took the liberty of tracking the online orders. You've had 347 since Friday night. Most are from people who saw the story and want to support you." 347? Brianna stared at the numbers. "I can't fulfill that many orders. Which is why I'm here. Ethan wanted me to connect you with a fulfillment service we use for TechVista's merchandise. They can handle packaging and shipping, you just provide the books and addresses. He'll cover the first month's costs as a gift." "Jordan, that's too much." "It's a gift, not a loan. Accept it with grace. He wants to help because he cares about you and your business succeeding." Jordan smiled. "Between you and me, I haven't seen him this happy in the 3 years I've worked for him. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it." By closing time, Brianna was exhausted but exhilarated. She'd made more money in one day than in the previous 3 months combined. The eviction was officially resolved, back rent paid, a buffer building in her account. Ethan texted, "Still on for dinner? Or are you too tired from being famous?" "Never too tired for pizza. See you at 7. She went home to change, finding the media presence significantly reduced. Apparently, something more interesting had captured their attention. In her apartment, she chose jeans and a red sweater, comfortable but nice. When Ethan arrived exactly at 7, he was wearing jeans too, looking more relaxed than she'd ever seen him. "How was your first day as a media sensation?" he asked. "Weird but good. How was your first day back to normal billionaire life?" "Boring compared to the weekend." He offered his arm. "Ready for the most normal date possible?" They walked to a neighborhood pizza place Brianna loved, a hole in the wall that made everything from scratch. Ethan ordered a large pie with extra cheese and didn't flinch at eating with his hands, getting sauce on his expensive watch. "This is incredible," he said through a mouthful of pizza. "Why have I been wasting money on fancy Italian places?" "Because you're a billionaire and that's what billionaires do?" Former billionaire behavior. Current Ethan just wants good pizza with a beautiful woman who makes him laugh. They talked about everything and nothing. Brianna told him about the day's customers, the flowers, the overwhelming support. Ethan shared about his meetings, a new product launch, his sister's reaction to the weekend's drama. "Nicole wants to know if you're free for dinner Sunday." "Her place. She's apparently befriended you and wants it to be official." "I'd love that." After pizza, they walked through Prospect Park, the late February evening cold but clear. Ethan took her hand and they walked in comfortable silence, watching other couples, dog walkers, people living their normal Monday lives. "Can I ask you something?" Brianna said eventually. "Anything." "What happens when the novelty wears off? When I'm just a regular person running a bookstore and you remember that you're Ethan Rodriguez with a billion-dollar company? When real life settles in and we're not caught up in wedding drama and viral moments?" Ethan stopped walking, turning to face her. "You think this is novelty? That I'm interested because it's exciting and different? I think you've been through something intense and I was there for it. I think emotions are heightened and reality hasn't set in yet." "You're not wrong that emotions are heightened. But Brianna, I've been thinking about this constantly. About us, about whether this makes sense, about all the logical reasons why we shouldn't work." He cupped her face. And every single time I come back to the same thing. I like who I am when I'm with you. I like that you challenge me, that you don't let me hide behind money or success, that you see me as just Ethan. Not the company, not the bank account. Just me. I see an incredible man who's kind and smart and surprisingly funny. But I also see someone whose life is fundamentally different from mine. You have resources and options I can't imagine. What if I hold you back? Hold me back from what? Making more money? Building bigger companies? I've done that. It didn't make me happy. You know what makes me happy? Sunday morning talking about your grandmother. Watching bad TV on a hotel couch. Eating pizza with sauce on my fingers. He kissed her forehead. I'm not asking you to change your life for me. I'm asking if you'll let me be part of it. What about you? What are you asking from me? Just a chance. To see if this is real. To build something together that isn't about transactions or arrangements but about actual connection. He paused. And maybe, eventually, to let me help make your bookstore everything you've dreamed it could be. Not because you need me to, but because I want to be invested in your success. Brianna was quiet, thinking. Her whole life, she'd been taught to be self-sufficient, to never rely on anyone, to protect herself from disappointment. Letting Ethan in meant risking that protection, opening herself to the possibility of being hurt. But it also meant opening herself to the possibility of something beautiful. Okay, she said finally. Let's try this. For real. No arrangement, no performance. Just us figuring out if we work. Ethan's smile was incandescent. Yeah. But Ethan? We go slow. We keep some boundaries between business and personal. And if it doesn't work, we're adults about it. Deal. He kissed her, sweet and full of promise. Although fair warning, I'm very bad at going slow when I'm excited about something. Then this will be good practice. They walked back to her apartment, hands linked, talking about logistics. When they could see each other given both their demanding schedules, how to handle the remaining media attention, what to tell people when they asked about their relationship. I want to be honest, Brianna said. I don't want to lie about how we met or make up some romantic story. The truth is weird, but it's ours. Agreed. We met because I made a desperate proposal and you were kind enough to say yes. That's actually a pretty great story. At her door, Ethan kissed her goodnight, lingering like he didn't want to leave. Tomorrow? Lunch if you can get away from the store? I'll make it work. Good. Because I'm already counting down the hours until I see you again. After he left, Brianna found a text from her mother. Call me when you can. Saw the news. Need to know you're okay and this man is treating you right. She called immediately. Her mother answered on the first ring. Baby, what is happening in your life? The wedding video, the news articles, people saying you're dating a billionaire. It's complicated, Mama. But I'm okay. Better than okay, actually. She explained everything. The arrangement, the wedding, the unexpected feelings, Ethan's kindness throughout. Her mother listened without interrupting, something Brianna was grateful for. And you trust him? Her mother asked finally. This isn't some game or some way for him to feel better about himself? I trust him. He's genuine, Mama. Kind in ways that can't be faked. He sees me, really sees me, and values what I've built. Then I'm happy for you. But baby, be careful. Men with that kind of money, that kind of power, they're used to getting what they want. Don't lose yourself trying to fit into his world. I won't. He's not asking me to change. He's asking to be part of my world. Good. Bring him to Atlanta when you're ready. Let me and your brothers meet this man who's captured your attention. They talked for another hour, Brianna sharing details about the weekend, the bookstore's surge in business, her hopes for the future. By the time she hung up, she felt grounded again, connected to her roots even as her life was changing. Her phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. Can't stop thinking about you. Is that normal after one real date? Brianna smiled and typed back, probably not. But I can't stop thinking about you either. Good. Sweet dreams, Brianna. Sweet dreams, Ethan. She fell asleep thinking about possibilities, about the strange journey from desperation to hope, about the man who'd walked into her life with an impossible request and somehow become someone she couldn't imagine being without. 6 months had transformed everything and nothing. Pages and Dreams had expanded into the empty storefront next door, creating a cafe corner with local pastries, and the coffee Brianna had promised was excellent. The grant from Simone's foundation had funded new inventory, a children's reading program, and salary for 2 part-time employees. Brianna stood in the middle of her expanded space, watching customers fill every seat, browse every shelf, chat in corners with books and coffee. This was what she'd dreamed about when she'd used her grandmother's money to open the doors 5 years ago. You ready for this? Nicole asked, appearing beside her in a stunning purple dress. The grand reopening party starts in an hour. As ready as I'll ever be. The past 6 months had been a whirlwind. Dating Ethan while running a growing business, learning to navigate his world while maintaining her own, figuring out how to let someone in without losing herself. It hadn't always been easy. They'd had arguments about boundaries, about his tendency to solve problems with money when she wanted to solve them with work, about her stubborn independence when accepting help made more sense. But they'd also had spontaneous weekend trips to bookstores in other cities, quiet mornings reading together in comfortable silence, dinners with Nicole that always ended in laughter and stolen desserts. They built something real and messy in theirs. He's nervous, you know, Nicole said. About tonight. Why would Ethan be nervous? He's faced down hostile investors and built billion-dollar companies. Because this matters more. Nicole smiled mysteriously. You'll see. The party was exactly what Brianna had wanted. Local community members, regular customers, authors she'd befriended, business owners from the neighborhood. No fancy catering or elaborate decorations, just good food, better books, and people who genuinely cared about what Pages and Dreams represented. Ethan arrived as the sun was setting, carrying a wrapped package and wearing dark jeans with a green button-down that Brianna had once mentioned she liked. He made his way through the crowd, greeting people he'd met over the past months, clearly comfortable despite being the only billionaire in the room. For you, he said, handing her the package. Open it later when things calm down. What is it? You'll see. Right now, I believe you have a speech to make. Brianna had prepared remarks, thanking everyone who'd supported the bookstore through its near-death and rebirth. She talked about her grandmother's vision, about the power of community, about what it meant to create a space where everyone was welcome. Her voice caught when she saw her mother in the crowd, having flown in as a surprise with her brothers. And finally, Brianna said, wrapping up, I want to thank someone who came into my life in the strangest possible way. Who saw me at my lowest point and offered help without judgment. Who taught me that accepting kindness isn't weakness and that the best partnerships are built on mutual respect and genuine care. Ethan, thank you for believing in this dream even when I was losing faith. The crowd applauded and Ethan's expression was soft, emotional in a way she rarely saw in public. After the speech, Brianna was pulled into 100 conversations, accepting congratulations, making book recommendations, reveling in the success of something she'd built. It was nearly midnight when the last guests left. Nicole helped clean up, along with Jordan who'd become a genuine friend over the months. Brianna's mother and brothers had gone back to their hotel, promising brunch the next morning. Open the present, Nicole demanded as they finished stacking chairs. The package held a leather-bound journal, custom-made with Pages and Dreams Volume 2, embossed on the cover. Inside, the first page had Ethan's handwriting, for all the stories still to come. The ones you'll write, the ones we'll live, and the ones we'll discover together. This is beautiful, Brianna said, throat tight. Keep going, Nicole urged. There's more. She flipped through blank pages until she found an envelope tucked in the middle. Inside was a letter in Ethan's careful script. Brianna. 6 months ago, I walked into your bookstore desperate and afraid, hoping a stranger would take pity on me and help me face something I'd been running from for years. You said yes without hesitation, accepted my offer with grace, and gave me the gift of your presence during one of the hardest weekends of my life. I thought that's all it would be. A transaction, a favor, maybe a story I'd occasionally tell at parties. I had no idea I was about to meet the person who would change everything. You've taught me what real strength looks like. Not the kind that builds companies or makes money, but the kind that gets back up every single time life knocks you down. The kind that holds on to dreams even when they seem impossible. The kind that offers kindness to strangers and believes in the power of stories to change lives. I love you. Not because you needed me to save your bookstore, but because you saved me from a life where success was measured only in dollars and business victories. You reminded me that the best things in life can't be bought or negotiated. They can only be built through honesty, vulnerability, and the courage to take chances on something that scares you. This journal is for us. For documenting our adventures, our arguments, our ordinary Tuesdays and extraordinary weekends. For writing down the moments that matter so we never forget how lucky we are to have found each other. I have one more question to ask you. Another proposal, if you will. This one doesn't come with a paycheck or an arrangement or any transaction at all. This one just comes with a hope that you feel even a fraction of what I feel for you. Turn to the last page. Forever yours, Ethan. Brianna's hands were shaking as she flipped to the final page. There, pressed between the pages, was a single bookmark shaped like a tree, identical to the one her grandmother had given her all those years ago. And beneath it, in Ethan's handwriting, "Brianna Hayes, will you be my partner? Not in business, not in some arrangement, but in life? Will you build a future with me, one day and one story at a time?" She looked up to find Ethan standing in the doorway, no longer hiding behind Jordan and Nicole, who were grinning like conspirators. He crossed the space between them, taking her hands. "I know it's fast," he said. "I know we've only been really together for 6 months. But when you know, you know. And I know that I want to wake up next to you every morning. I want to support your dreams while you challenge mine. I want to argue about whose turn it is to make coffee and discover new bookstores in random cities and build a life that's messy and real in ours. You want to marry me?" Brianna's voice was barely a whisper. "Eventually, yes. If you want that too. But right now, I'm just asking you to be my partner. To let this thing between us be official and permanent and real." He smiled. "I'm asking you to say yes to me one more time, not because I'm offering you money or saving your business, but just because you want to." Brianna thought about the past 6 months. The fights about him trying to solve everything with his checkbook when she needed to do things herself. The moments where his world felt overwhelming, where she worried she'd never truly fit. The times she'd pulled away, afraid of losing herself in his life. But she also thought about Saturday mornings where he brought terrible bodega coffee just to make her laugh. About the way he'd learned to respect her independence while still offering support. About meeting his business partners and holding her own, realizing she belonged in any room she chose to enter. About him showing up for her reading hour with local kids, sitting cross-legged on the floor while 8-year-olds asked if he was a prince. She thought about love, real love, the kind her grandmother had told her about. The kind that made you better, braver, more yourself instead of less. The kind that required courage and trust and the willingness to build something together. "Yes," she said. "Yes, I want to be your partner. In life, in love, in whatever comes next." Ethan pulled out a small box, opening it to reveal a ring that made Brianna's breath catch. Not a massive diamond that screamed wealth, but a beautiful emerald surrounded by small diamonds, set in rose gold. "It reminded me of the dress you wore at the wedding," he said, slipping it on her finger. "The first time I saw you and thought you were the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. The moment I started falling without even realizing it." The ring fit perfectly. Of course it did. Ethan was nothing if not thorough. "This is happening," Nicole said, wiping tears. "My brother is engaged to someone I actually like. Jordan, we're witnessing a miracle." "We should celebrate," Jordan said, pulling out champagne that she'd apparently hidden behind the counter. They toasted to new beginnings, to love found in unexpected places, to the courage it took to say yes when everything logical said no. They drank expensive champagne out of coffee mugs because Brianna didn't own proper glasses yet, and it was perfect. Later, after Nicole and Jordan had left and it was just the two of them in the quiet bookstore, Ethan pulled Brianna close. "Thank you," he said, "for taking a chance on a desperate stranger. For giving me a second chance at believing in love. For being exactly who you are without apology. Thank you for walking into my bookstore that day. For saving my dream. For showing me that accepting help doesn't make me weak, it makes me smart." She kissed him. "And for being patient while I figured out how to let you in. It was worth the wait." They locked up the bookstore together, walking hand in hand to Brianna's apartment. Tomorrow they'd call her family, tell Nicole officially, start planning whatever came next. But tonight, they just existed in the perfect moment between ending and beginning. "Can you believe this all started because you needed a date to a wedding?" Brianna mused. "Best desperate decision I ever made." Ethan grinned. "Although I'm pretty sure you needed me more than I needed you. Your bookstore was about to close. My bookstore was temporarily struggling. You were about to watch your ex marry someone else while sitting alone and miserable. We both needed each other. That's kind of perfect, isn't it?" It was perfect. Two people at their lowest points, meeting by chance, building something neither expected. A partnership that started as transaction and became transformation. Brianna looked at the ring on her finger, at the man beside her, at the life they were building together. She thought about her grandmother, about the dreams passed down through generations, about the power of stories to change everything. This was her story. Not a fairy tale, not a romance novel, but something real and messy and beautiful. A story about courage and kindness, about second chances and new beginnings, about saying yes when everything tells you to protect yourself. "I love you," she told Ethan, the words still feeling new and precious. "I love you too. My partner, my favorite person, my unexpected everything." They walked through Brooklyn streets lit by street lamps and corner store lights, past neighbors and strangers, Just two people building a life together. Tomorrow would bring challenges and complications, logistics and planning, the reality of merging two different worlds. But tonight there was just this. Love found in a bookstore, partnership built from impossible proposals, and the simple radical choice to believe in hope over fear. Pages and dreams had been saved, not just by money or grants or viral fame, but by the connection between two people who chose kindness when the world offered cynicism. Who chose love when logic suggested otherwise. Who chose to build something beautiful in the ruins of their separate desperate moments. And in the journal Ethan had given her, on the first blank page, Brianna would eventually write, "This is where our real story begins. Not with transactions or arrangements, but with the simple, powerful choice to say yes to love, to partnership, to building a future that's messy and real and entirely ours." Here's to all the pages still to come. The beginning had arrived, dressed as an ending. The wedding invitation that brought them together had led to a different kind of commitment entirely. And the bookstore that almost closed had become the setting for the opening chapter of something neither of them had dared to dream possible. Sometimes the best stories start with the most unexpected sentence. "Can you be my date for my ex's wedding?" And sometimes the answer that changes everything is the simplest one. Yes.